What's going on, guys? It's Jesse from Practically Tactical here. Thanks for watching. I'm a Trek from MDFI, trainmdfi.com. Be sure to check them out. And today we want to talk to you a little bit about the whole person concept. This is something that you're going to hear a lot if you come to MDFI classes. So who better to kind of tell us about it than Trek himself?
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction, Jesse. Yeah, when we talk about the whole person concept, what we've done is we've broken down each and every one of us into responsible people. And that's why we train. We know it's our Second Amendment guaranteed right, God-given right to protect ourselves, and the Constitution gives us that Second Amendment. So we have a lot of people out there to say, well, it's my right. And you're absolutely right. We have the right to bear arms as citizens of these United States, but the reality is just buying a gun ain't going to cut it. When we carry a gun out in public or we use a gun for home defense, we have great responsibility that comes with that. And so it is our goal, and the reason that we train is to become responsible people, basically a responsibility and not a liability, which we talk about all the time at MDFI classes. And where this came from is my law enforcement background as a military police officer, and the thing that was hammered into us time and time again is we have to act as a reasonable officer. And cops from all walks of experience hear this term, and basically what it means is that as a law enforcement officer, if I use any force, even verbal commands, if I use intermediate force like you guys experienced with that pepper spray hit, or if I have to unfortunately use lethal force during my duties, I'm going to be judged based on all my peers and by constitutional use of force, standard operating procedures, and other state laws and applicable SOPs. And what this means, we take from current events. Let's look at Ferguson, Missouri. And this is a hot topic. This is an absolutely hot topic. So what we need to do is we need to stay away from the political aspect and all that media hype that came from that whole thing, and we need to break it down to Officer Darren Wilson and Michael Brown. What we know is that on a day in Ferguson, Missouri, a law enforcement officer encountered a subject, not a suspect, but a subject, and in the course of that field interview, there was a shooting that involved lethal force in which Michael Brown perished from his injuries after Officer Darren Wilson sustained injuries, and that's all we knew. That is all we knew at the time. And what ended up happening throughout all the other stuff that occurred is that there was a full-blown investigation. At the end of the day, a prosecutor made the call to send it to the grand jury, and that grand jury came back saying that Officer Darren Wilson was not going to face criminal charges for his actions. So take that shooting, that law enforcement shooting, and any shooting that a law enforcement officer is involved with, and now we have to translate to us as civilians. I'm no longer a cop. I'm no longer in the military. I've got the epic beard going on as rebellion from my roughly 10 years of service. And I'm no longer that cop, but the cool thing is that law enforcement officers and us as civilians alike, there's no difference in our use of deadly force. We use deadly force only when encountered with serious bodily harm or death, someone that is trying to do something to make it so that we were not going to go home and hug our loved ones again. So I don't operate anymore under the reasonable officer doctrine, but I do operate under the reasonable person doctrine. And that reasonable person, it's you, it's me, it's those people that are out there. They're training, they're making sure they understand the 4 life safety rules, they understand that they are a boon to society and their fellow man, and they're not a liability, they're a responsibility to the citizenry of this country. And so what we do is we take each and every one of us and we break that down into 4 distinct areas. And those 4 distinct areas are mind, body, tools, and environment. Mindset, or mind, is the biggest one, and this is the one that we know as we go out there and we shoot at these cardboard targets. It's not a real bad guy. There aren't bad guys volunteering for this type of training, and we frankly don't want to take a human life. We're training on the off chance that we have to, because our life and life of innocent people are being threatened. So right there, mindset is the most difficult, and we all see these people. They're the people that they say, I could never take a human life. I don't want to carry a gun because I don't feel I can be responsible. And there's nothing wrong with that, because as grown adults, we have to make that call. But at the end of the day, we have chosen to bear arms responsibly on the off chance that we have to defend ourselves or innocent life from a lethal attack. And so right there, mindset. When you go to a training class, when you're just sitting at home and you're wargaming in your head about what would I do if this situation occurred, you have to first and foremost say to yourself, I'm going home at the end of the day no matter what. I'm going to make sure that I protect myself, I protect my loved ones, and those people out there, even the anti-gun people that are out there. When we put a gun on, we're saying to ourselves and to them, I will protect you if something bad happens, because I'm taking that responsibility on myself, and that's huge. So mindset is first and foremost. If we don't have the mindset to fight and not flee and carry that gun, we have to work on that. And that's the most difficult thing for those of us that go to training classes. No instructor can shoot at us. No, you might go to a force-on-force class, Aaron Cohen, Sage Dynamics, Will Petty, Vehicle CQB. They're going to put you in the sim helmets, the UTM, and you're going to do force-on-force. But at the end of the day, you know you're not going to get a lethal hit. You might get the Bs, and you might realize, hey, I did something stupid, and I got stitched up, and I got the bruises to prove it. But mindset's very difficult because we're not going to be able to practice it until the day the bad guys choose to make it live, and that's very difficult. The second one is body, and this is a huge one, and I'll tell you what, we talk about this all the time. We like our beer, we like our pizza, we like our Chinese food, but at the same time, we as responsible citizens need to understand that if a fight is brought to us, that we're going to be able to fight at our physical capability at that moment. So this should be that wake-up call to all of us out there that maybe instead of buying that fourth AR-15, maybe buy that gym membership, maybe take up mixed martial arts, because we're going to need to have that physical capability to fight the fight. If the mind says, yeah, I want to win this fight, and the body's like, I'm living on a diet of beer and pizza, we got serious problems, and that's huge. So you're never going to hear me talk and try to talk down to someone about physical fitness, because I like that stuff too, and believe me, we all need to work on it. But at the same time, I do my 20-mile bike rides, I go for my runs, I do some push-ups, because I got to find that balance of enjoying life, but also making sure that I'm physically capable of defending myself and my loved ones, which is huge. And then we have tools. And this is it. The biggest one is our operating system. We need to constantly be tuning that operating system to make sure that we're wargaming, that we're thinking to ourselves when we go out with our friends and we say, hey, Jesse, here's my med kit. It's back behind the seat. I've got spare magazines here. We're just going to talk to one another, and we're going to start thinking through those worst case scenarios, and that's huge. But the other tools that are out there, handguns, rifles, shotguns, our med kit, all of the different things that we may stow in that go bag in our car, we need to know how to use them, because just having it wrapped in plastic, buying it, if we're not practicing with it, we're not doing ourselves any good. So just by buying that gun, that really cool gun, if you're not out there and you don't know the little idiosyncrasies of how it works, if you don't even know how to do a proper reload, you've got problems, because it doesn't matter. The bad guy doesn't care how cool the gun looks. The bad guy is only going to care about, did you just stop him from doing what he planned on doing? And that's a big one. So that's why we train. And then, of course, our environment. And every single time we go to the range, hopefully if you're going to a good range, you've got your targets and you've got a great berm behind you like we do here at Post 46 in Pinckney, Michigan. But we have to say to ourselves, this ain't the real world. We're training at a range, they're set up for safety, but it's going to be that Walmart parking lot at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's going to be people in our foreground, there's going to be screaming, it's going to be noisy, there's going to be cars, and if we miss those shots, even if we hit that bad guy, those bullets, if we're using possibly the wrong ammunition, goes back to tools, that bullet might pass right through that bad guy, and if that background is not safe, we could become a liability and not a responsibility. So the whole person concept is designed for people like us that are going to try to be responsible with firearms to start thinking about what is most important to my defensive aspect, a cool gun or knowing how to use the gun that I could afford to the utmost of its ability. And that's really what it's all about.
No, I think all great points there. You know, as you were speaking, you know, the mind, you know, it's getting that your mind right, definitely. It's being able to look past that problem. I think that's the biggest thing that we find is, you know, your problem-solving capabilities. A lot of these situations, like you're saying, you try to game them, but with real life, we can't really game everything. There's so many variables out there. So really getting that mindset down, definitely. Body, like you always say, you know, we've got about 45 seconds of good fight in each one of us. So, you know, it's setting yourself up for success to maybe be able to go a little bit longer, a little bit harder in those situations. The tools, I mean, you know, we always get caught up on the cool guy stuff, the gun, the gear, the holster, but I mean, you got to talk about your flashlights, your pocket knives, you know, less than lethal tools. And there's just a huge array of tools out there, and knowing each and every one of those. And yeah, I mean, coming down to, you know, just your environment in general. So great points there. Like I said, I think, you know, it's a really good concept. It really shows you kind of where you're at as a person and where you kind of need to work. So that's the whole body concept, guys. I really appreciate you watching. Thanks for coming out, Trek, and talking with us on this.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Check out trainedmdfi.com. Check out Trek on Instagram at Michigan Trainer, and hope to see you guys at a class.